Oh, good morning. Are you feeling a little tired this morning like I am? I'm normally an energetic morning person. Yes, I'm one of those super annoying people, but not this morning. I'm dragging a little today, I have to admit it. I'm also feeling a little thirsty, and I skipped breakfast. Not a good combination. Tired, hungry, and thirsty. I'm not off to the best start to this day. How about you? Are you feeling any of these things too? Tiredness, hunger, thirst. They're common to each of us at one time or another. Now, as Jesus walked the dusty roads with his disciples, he felt these discomforts too. He felt tired, hungry, and thirsty. And on one journey, they traveled through Samaria. Now, Jesus told his followers that he needed to go through Samaria. Now, certainly, there was not a geographic reason for this. The Israelites were enemies of their neighbors, the Samaritans. There were several paths that Jesus and the disciples could take, and they were nowhere near Samaria. Now, Jesus and his disciples arrived in the Samaritan city in the heat of the day. Tired, Jesus sat next to the well. His disciples set out in search of food, and a woman approached. "Give me a drink," Jesus asked her. Now, the woman must have hesitated. Jesus' way of speaking and his clothing would have given away his heritage. You see, he was her enemy. She came to the well at this time of day to avoid people, to avoid questions. Her answer was direct. "How is it that you, being a Jew, ask a drink from me, a Samaritan woman?" she asked. Now, I imagine her voice betrayed her surprise, maybe her hostility. The nerve of this man asking her for a drink of water. Well, Jesus must have smiled, and he answered, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is who says to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman must have been intrigued. "Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where then do you get that living water?" It was a valid question, a practical one, but Jesus wasn't thinking of his physical thirst or of hers. He answered her, "Whoever drinks of this water will thirst again. But whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. It will become in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life." There was something about his words, his way of speaking them. She set her water pot down. "Sir," she responded, "give me this water that I may not thirst, nor come here to draw." The woman may still have been thinking of her physical need for water, about her daily trips to the well in the heat of the day when she thought she would be alone. But then she heard his answer. "Go, call your husband and come here," Jesus said. Her husband. Ouch. Now the conversation hit a nerve. She looked at Jesus and she chose to tell the truth. Sort of. "I have no husband." "You have well said, 'I have no husband,'" Jesus answered. "For you have had 5 husbands, and the one whom you now have is not your husband." She stared at him unblinking. "I perceive that you are a prophet," she managed to say. Jesus answered her gently and honestly. She didn't rush away, and their conversation continued. "I know that Messiah is coming," the woman said. "When he comes, he will tell us all things." This was the reason for this trip to Samaria. Jesus answered her, "I who speak to you am he." Now, just as this conversation reached this critical moment, the disciples returned with food. The woman left her water pot and returned to the city. And as she walked back to the city, I wonder what she thought about. She had just met Messiah. He had spoken to her, but why her? Did she begin to doubt her own experience? Did she second guess it all and wonder if she'd imagined the entire thing? I don't think so, because the woman who went to the well alone in the heat of the day to avoid everyone was emboldened. She was emboldened by her faith, and this faith had a wonderful ripple effect. The Samaritan woman shared with all who would listen, "Come see a man who told me all things that I ever did. Could this be the Christ?" And as she shared, the disciples urged Jesus to eat. Jesus wasn't interested in satisfying this physical need. He wasn't in Samaria for water or for food. And then the people from the city began to arrive at the well. They had listened to the Samaritan woman's story about this man that she met at the well. They came to see him for themselves. They asked Jesus to stay and to teach them, and he did. Jesus and the disciples stayed for 2 days. And many believed. Many believed because the Samaritan woman in faith had told them about Jesus. This little act, it created a ripple of faith through her city, and it ripples down to us today. She didn't question her experience, and she didn't succumb to any doubts about whether she was enough to share this experience with others. In faith, she invited others to come and see what she had experienced, and many believed. Are you thirsty? You know, I'm not worried about my missing breakfast anymore, and I feel wide awake. I am thirsty, but for the living water that Jesus talked about all those years ago. How about you? Wherever you are watching or listening to this message, stay with us. There are resources right on this station or on this website to connect you to that source of living water. And if you've tasted that living water, tell someone else about it and watch your step of faith create a beautiful ripple.